problem. What I do is I work with a lot of people using something called neurolinguistic programming and EFT, which is emotional freedom techniques. It's an acupressure algorithm. And what I do is I help people who have anxiety issues, post-traumatic stress issues, addiction issues, overcome that much, much faster than traditional therapy. Where your typical therapist might have you come for 20 sessions at an hour each, and each one's $100, $150. We see results with what we do in 30 to 45 minutes in one session, and it's something that people can take home, they can do on their own, consistently every single day, and relieve significant trauma, issues, etc. Now, one thing that I was going to do was focus more on quantum learning, actually speeding up the learning process, removing any sort of anxiety that people might have about learning certain skills, functions, whatever. One of my friends here, though, is a practicing shaman and Qigong expert and Tai Chi expert, and he's actually going to do a breathing exercise here with everyone first, just to kind of raise the energy level in the room. And then we're going to look at doing probably 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to teach you an acupressure algorithm called EFT. Then both of us will be available all weekend, that if you have any issues that you want to work for or work through, we'll be available for 5 to 10, 15 minutes to help each and every one of you at no cost. Sound reasonable? All right, let me bring up my buddy Brad Crane here.
How y'all doing? What I'm going to give to y'all is a breathing exercise, and it enhances the mind-body relationship by synchronizing both hemispheres of the brain, the creative and the logical. And the breathing is a 4-part process which uses basically an 8 count. It starts out with you breathing just 8 times, which we call natural breathing. It's a very simplistic name, but then we get into the 8 count the breath that actually will lower or change your brain state into a more alpha and to theta area, which you use an 8 count. In, you hold it for 8 seconds, you let it out for 8 seconds, and then you hold it with no air in your lungs for 8 seconds, at which point we'll change to another breath, which there's a bunch of different, depending on your tradition, what they called it, but it's alternate nostril breathing to give it a very generic, clear explanation. And this is actually lighting up different areas of your brain and stimulating the logical and creative faculties. And then after that, this is the first alternate nostril breath is done just to keep you present kind of in the room. For people that are not familiar with breathing exercises and using the breath to alter states of consciousness, you might feel light or dizzy, at which point you want to work within your body. If you feel like that you are getting too lightheaded or dizzy or things becoming intense, please discontinue and resume your normal breath and join in when you feel more comfortable. So the last part is using the 8 nostril, or the alternate nostril breathing, using the 8 count again, and bringing us into a higher state of harmony between the 2 brain hemispheres. In order to do this, I'll have to set down the microphone, but what this will look like, and to keep this nice and easy to understand, is that you'll take one of your hands and place these 2 fingers over your third eye, at which point in time you'll take your fingers and close off one side of your nose. You'll breathe in and out. Now, for some people, it helps to make this, if you're a drummer or a musician, you can actually make a rhythm by using your other fingers. We're going in, out, and then you fall into a natural rhythm of a breathing cycle, which further and helps and does enhance the 2 hemispheres of your brain coming together. So I'm going to go ahead and set down the microphone. Actually, does anybody have any questions real quick? Pretty clear? Okay. I'll set this down for a minute. All right. So, you close your eyes or open them, closing your eyes gives you an advantage of
one cool thing about Brad is Brad's been doing the breathing exercises and the shamanism exercises for a long time. I think he forgets that people can't hold their breath for like 3 minutes, though. So where it takes me like 30 seconds to go through all of it, it takes him considerably longer. But what I actually do, and what Brad studies as well with me in a group that we created, was studying an acupressure-based algorithm that was developed based off Chinese acupressure. And the idea behind it is that all anxiety, all negative emotion, all pain is actually a disruption of the body's energy systems. And while this might look extremely silly, and some of the things that you say might make you laugh, it actually does work with a lot of different issues. What I'm hoping from this group is that in 10 or 15 minutes you can learn something. You can start playing with it on your own, tapping on issues. Join a group called EMOFree, EMOFREE.com. It's not the emo kids. It's an actual emotional freedom. And be able to join that. It's completely free. Talk about your experience. I'm sorry? Yeah, that's fine. No, it's fine. But you can actually go on there, exchange ideas, and help and learn this modality. It's kind of like open source psychiatry, psychology, open source acupressure. Anyone can do it. Anyone can teach it to anyone else. You can learn the basics inside of 10, 15 minutes and be able to go help people like I do, taking little kids that have severe math anxiety, severe reading anxiety, severe spelling anxiety, and within a matter of 15 to 30 minutes, have them kind of eliminate all of that and be able to go sit in a classroom and be able to do their math problems with no negative energy and negative connotations related to it anymore. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to lead you through what looks very, very strange, but it's an actual acupressure algorithm based on the Chinese meridians. So the very first place that you're going to learn how to tap on is what's called the karate chop point. And it's between this knuckle right here and the very base of your hand. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to tap that with 2 or 3 fingers. And what we're going to use is what's called a discovery statement. And it's basically you're going to give your issue a name. And it could be anything from like a headache. Let's use that right now. And it says, even though I have this headache, so follow along. Even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. Sounds very silly. A lot of people can't even say that. So you have to have them tapping on that first. You have to have them say, even though I don't feel like I can accept myself, I deeply and completely do accept myself. So what you would do is you would say that 3 times. Then you're going to follow a series of energy points and meridians. The very first one is right here at the inside, right above your nose, at the base of your eyebrow. So you're going to tap on that. If you have a headache, you're going to say the word headache. If you have an issue with math, like a lot of children that I deal with have, you're going to say, even though I have a problem with math, and you're just going to tap on that. Then you're going to take the point right on the eye orbit, right at the base of the eyebrow here. Tap on that. Right below the eye. Right between your upper lip and your nose. Right between your lower lip and your chin. Now this is an interesting point here. What you're going to do is you're going to find your suprasternal notch. It's basically right here at the base of your throat. Go down about 1 inch and then go over about 1 inch. There's a little sore spot there. It's a lymphatic drainage point. You want to tap on that. Then under your armpit, you have to raise your arm. Now, the hand points are right at the nail bed, right here. So you're going to tap on the very edge of like the base of your nail. On your finger, first finger. Middle finger. And last is your pinky finger. Now what you're going to do as you go through all those points is you're actually going to be saying the name that you've given your issue. Like if you have a headache, you're going to say, even though I have this headache, I deeply and completely accept myself. And you're going to say headache as you tap each of those points. When you get to that, that's one round. Then what you actually do when you finish at the pinky is you do what's called the gamut procedure. And it's where you actually tap on a different energy meridian that's in your hand. If you close your hand, make a fist right between your last two knuckles. You go up maybe about a quarter to a half an inch. There's like a little indentation, a little sensitive sore spot there. You're going to tap on that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to do a series of eye exercises. A lot of people don't realize this, but every time you move your eyes, you are actually accessing different parts of your brain. If you move down and to the right, you're accessing feelings. If you move down and to the left, you're accessing a lot of times feelings that you're imagining having. So what you're going to do is you're going to close your eyes as you tap on that point. Everyone close your eyes. Open your eyes. Look hard and down to the right without moving your head. Look hard down to the left without moving your head. Now you're going to hum a tune. Happy birthday, just a few bars. You're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you're going to hum again. Then if you were going to finish it out, you would go back through all of the same acupressure points again. That's one complete rotation. If you work with someone doing this, and you ask them if they have a headache, how bad is your headache on a scale of 1 to 10? A lot of times they'll say 7, 8. You do one complete round with them, ask them what level is their headache at right then, they'll say 4. It's very simple then what you do. You change your verbiage just slightly. What you're going to do is you're going to say, that's fine. Next round that you do, you're going to say, instead of saying, even though I have this headache, you're going to go, even though I still have some of a headache, and have them go through all those tapping points again. Reduce it even more. What you do with the gamut is, like I said, each time you move your eyes, you're accessing a different part of your brain. When you hum, you're accessing the creative part of your brain. When you count, you're accessing the more logical binary half of your brain. So you're actually trying to bring the two hemispheres of your brain together to focus on the problem and relieve it. Now, I know that's a very brief thing. What I've actually developed is a little one-page cheat sheet that if you go upstairs, there's a table there. He's got his massage table. I have some hypnosis products that I'm selling for a friend of mine, if you're interested in like stopping smoking, stuff like that. But you can sign up on that sheet, give me your name and your email, and I will email you a one-page cheat sheet that will walk you through all of those points again. What I would like to see each and every one of you do is just go home, start playing with your own brain. You know, look at problems that you have in your daily life. Look at problems that people have around you. Show them this method. Watch how quickly they can see results. I'm actually working with a girl right now who, for the last 2 years, has had serious learning issues, and she's a medical student. She's about to graduate. She's about to fail out of medical school. I worked with her yesterday for the very first time. Within 10 minutes, she said her anxiety level dealing with just normal medical school studies had dropped from a 12 on a scale of 1 to 10 to about a 4. She was going to go home and actually start using it with her daughter to help her own daughter with her math anxiety about school. So all I wanted to show is a very quick, simple, acupressure-based algorithm that anyone can use, study, learn in 5 or 10 minutes, start applying to problems, and reduce pain, reduce post-traumatic stress. It's been very, very useful in people coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, dealing with children, dealing with addiction therapy, addiction issues. You know, it's something that you can do that's cheap, portable. You can take it to anywhere, teach it to anyone, and completely revolutionize your life. So I had a lot more where we were actually going to do like neurolinguistic programming for learning and all that, but I really think that what they were talking about was extremely important in the current political climate, so I wanted them to have more than enough time to answer all their questions. I will be available all weekend if you have any issues that you want to work with. They'll take 5 or 10 minutes to go in depth with you. Brad will also be available as well. That's it. Any questions? And also, thank you all for sticking around. People were coming in, seeing everyone breathing. We're like, sure. Yes. Actually, I've read on the website that I was talking about, emofree.com, about people using this with Alzheimer's patients. A lot of learning issues and memory issues aren't necessarily a biological issue or a neurochemical issue. It's an anxiety issue about realizing that you're starting to forget stuff, so you get anxious, and then that creates like a self-replicating mechanism where you get anxious, so you forget, so you get more anxious, so you forget more. And I have read about that being used to help people. I don't know if I would say that, but it does teach you a lot of memory tricks. Some of the things that I learned using neurolinguistic programming, which I'm hoping that there's a talk tomorrow on picking up women, I guess. It's the very first thing. I actually use this EFT technique with people on self-confidence issues, and I'm hoping that they're going to go into some of neurolinguistic programming more, because that's what it's. Some people are using it to a great effect, I guess, now in the seduction community. I don't have any experience with that, so I'm not worried. I have done that for years. That's actually how I started studying neurolinguistic programming, was learning embedded commands for sales and selling real estate. So I was 22 years old, fresh out of college. I studied everything I could for 6 months and became a top salesperson for a real estate development company. And now, after the markets died and I actually went to work for a college, and I've seen so many adults that come to my college, because we are a technical college, trying to start their lives over. And they have so much anxiety, so much issues regarding basically shit that happened 15 and 20 years ago when they were in elementary school and junior high and high school, and it's still holding them back after all this time. I realized right then what I wanted to apply this type of stuff for. So that's when I started working with adults. Sure. Yeah, that's not a problem at all. NLP is fun, neurolinguistic programming. It was a modality developed in the 1970s by two guys, one named Richard Bandler and one named John Grinder. John Grinder was a professor of linguistics, and Richard Bandler was an information scientist. And what they did was they traveled throughout the country, speaking with some of the absolute cutting-edge therapists that they could find. A guy named Milton Erickson, who was a medical hypnotist, who was seeing results when no one else would. A lady named Virginia Satir, who was a family counselor. A guy named Moshe Feldenkrais, who was dealing with stuff with performance issues and body issues, and actually dealing with physical movement to overcome those. They studied them, and they developed a way to model excellence. That's what it all started out at. Then they had a falling out. There's been people that have been doing NLP training and all that since the 70s. Bandler is actually quite interesting. I've always wanted to meet and work with him, because he took it in a completely opposite direction than most other people. He actually started using it for generative change. But what we can do really quickly is a very simple exercise. And what we're going to look at is what's something called submodalities. When I work with kids and adults, I actually tell them to tell me your problem in 30 seconds or less, because I really don't care what the content is. All problems have a process that they go through. If you're depressed, you don't just wake up and say, oh, I'm depressed because of this. What you actually are doing is you're making mental images. You're hearing people talk to you. You're experiencing feelings in your body in a very definite pattern that repeats itself over and over again. And that's what causes a depression. So rather than worry about the content, let's just change the process. If everyone in here right now, it doesn't matter what the issue is, if you can take and picture that issue, I want you to picture it as clearly as you can, exactly the way that you always picture it. All right? Odds are, if I told you that it's in color, might be in black and white. A lot of times, and this is very interesting, the size of the picture is actually related to the size of your first television. Most people don't actually experience pictures in their head in full 3D panoramic. They actually picture it as a two-dimensional, either stagnant or video, about the size of the television that they grew up with, because that's how they visualize. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually start working with your own mind, changing that picture. If it's a color picture and it's something that you don't want to experience over and over again, the very first thing that I would tell you to do, change it to black and white. Did anyone actually do that when I said it and experience a difference? Did you experience a difference in emotion? To some extent, because it's just such a small change. All right, how big? Do you mind if I use you as an example? Seriously, come up here and let me play with your brain. Okay. And I actually tell people that all the time. Come up, let me play with their brain. But take the picture that you have, change the color, make it fuzzy if it's clear. Turn the picture upside down, change where it's located. People always picture things, they develop patterns that they're unconscious of. Exactly. It takes away some of the emotions, some of the negative content. And it's not necessarily really content, it's the negative process of it. So what you want to do is, if it's a color image that's not making you happy that you're picturing, change it to black and white. If it's real close to you and it's this big, make it that big. Take it, physically push it away, push it to the side. It'll change the emotional energy that you have. I like to turn them upside down. I like to put stupid crap in my pictures if they upset me. It's really hard to be mad at a memory if you've got Disney characters acting like dumbasses in your memories. It takes all of the negative energy out of it. What I would do is actually, and I'll do this by myself sometimes, close your eyes, imagine it. Take your hands, make the image smaller, flatten it out so it is a picture, then start playing with it. There's all sorts of different things that you can do for every single what's called submodality. There's actually 5 different types of overall general modalities. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, gustatory, olfactory is kind of combined. And then there's also, no, you don't really want to combine them, I guess, if you want to break them up into the individual parts. So let's just stay with 5. But the main 3 are always visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So just start looking at the unconscious ideas that you have of these pictures, have of these sounds. If you remember your mom telling you that you can't do math when you're 5 years old, and that triggers that anxiety, change the sound of her voice. If it sounds like she's right beside your ear yelling at you, you can't do math, you're not going to be any good at anything. Make it so she's really far away. Make it a whisper. You can't do math. Make her sound like she's an idiot. Make her sound like she's been breathing those helium balloons or something like that. It takes a lot of the energy out of the processes that you're creating that cause problems. Yes, ma'am. Yep. Making things better is so much better than trying to just get rid of bad things. What you can do is there's an idea called timelines. Everyone unconsciously has an actual physical representation of your timeline of things that you've done in the past, things that you're doing now, things that you want to do in the future. If there's something that you're wanting to accomplish and it's just a goal that's floating out there, if it's not on your actual timeline, you will not achieve it. So what you need to do is figure out where your timeline is and put the biggest, boldest, most exciting picture that you can on that timeline. So you're actually seeing yourself approaching it every day. Every day it's getting bigger. Every day it's getting brighter. Every day it's getting clearer. If you're going to be going to the islands and you want to have an amazing trip when you get there, not only should you be picturing, stepping off the plane, walking on the beach, you should actually be kinesthetically imagining, what is it going to feel like to have the sand between my toes? What is it going to sound? Yeah, smell the salt water. Yeah. What is it going to sound like with the waves crashing in on the beach? What's it going to sound like with the steel drums? Make it as visual and visceral as possible. is a huge issue of it. It's actually quite amazing how many times parents will bring their children in saying, Johnny can't do math. And Johnny can do math just fine. It's that you have an issue that you don't think he can, and he's fulfilling your wish for him. So if I'm dealing with children, a lot of times I'll have the parents in there tapping on the same issues. And I'll even have them saying, even though I don't think Johnny can do math, I still deeply and completely accept myself. So you're really not even working with Johnny. You're working more with mom or dad who brought him in there and are causing the problems to begin with. I'm sorry. I do. The law of attraction is great, but everyone has jumped on this law of attraction bandwagon thinking that that's all there is to personal development. It's like, is law of attraction cosmic ordering? Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but there's a lot of other laws that are involved in the ancient Hermetic sciences that law comes from. And a lot of those have been kind of pushed by the wayside because they're not as easily marketable. That's the way I look at it. But, I mean, if you're going to focus on something that you want, you better focus on it in the most clear detail that you can possibly imagine and focus on it daily. And I think it's much more likely that it'll come around. Maybe you won't necessarily attract it. Maybe you'll actually start working subconsciously towards achieving the goal. You know? No. But actually, the EFT that we were just doing, a lot of people use it in abundance classes. Taking classes where people have negative connotations about money. I want to be rich, but then they have an idea that rich people are liars and cheats, and they stole their money, and I can't have money because my mom and dad didn't have money. You need to get over those issues first, and then you'll be amazed at how much money will come running at you, because you'll actually be out there accepting it and working towards it. No problem. It is. It is based. Yes, it's based on Chinese medicine. It's kind of, I know people that actually tap on the chakras and do chakra meditation at the same time. This is more based on the Chinese acupuncture plot. A lot of people call EFT emotional freedom technique acupuncture without needles. Desensitization, it basically takes a lot. The fundamental aspect of EFT is the fact that all negative emotions, all pain in the body, has some sort of electrical analog in the body. So if you balance out the energy in the body using what was a 2,000-year-old Chinese acupressure, now we've combined it with simple tapping techniques. If you balance out that energy, you take a lot of the negativity, the negative emotion out of those issues, and then they just sort of resolve on their own. Yeah. There is some talk about using, and this breaks those patterns. It interrupts that energy pattern that you're unconscious of in your body. To give you an idea why I like this, if you want to talk about stuff like what they were doing here earlier, open source, AK-47 construction. TFT, which was thought field therapy, was developed by a guy named Richard Callahan. And there's a lot of good to be said about him, but there's a lot of people that are very upset with him in the field because for a basic training, he'll charge you about $100,000 to show you pretty much the same stuff that I just showed you here in 15 minutes. How this really came out in the open was a guy who was a Stanford-educated engineer who gave up a very lucrative physics teaching career at Stanford to become a minister and a counselor. And he specialized in working with, at the time, Vietnam War veterans dealing with post-traumatic stress. And he heard of Roger Callahan and the incredible work that he had done with people, And he actually invested the time and the money to study with Callahan for I don't know how long, but he spent the $100,000. And when he got done, he realized that he could simplify the process to the point where anyone could learn it for free inside of 10 or 15 minutes at a basic seminar. Now, Brad and I and a couple other people here in Nashville have actually ordered the entire instruction program, which is DVDs and books and all that. It's about $300 to $400, and it's, I wouldn't even know, 100 hours worth of just study time, just watching DVDs and reading. And then a lot of it comes down to personal practice, dealing with lots and lots of different people over and over again. But instead of paying $100,000 to learn, I think it's just fun to go out and teach people the basics and let them play with it on their own and see what they can do to help themselves and hopefully teach other people and help them. And one thing that Brad and I are actually looking at doing here right after the first of the year is going to be teaching one-day seminars where we blend, and it'll be much more in-depth, but a combination of neurolinguistic programming and EFT is what I will be teaching, where Brad will be doing stuff with shamanism, dream work, and qigong, and teaching people like in 1 and 2 day intensives how to overcome a lot of issues that are holding them back. So we're going to hit it from the psychological aspect and the acupressure aspect of it, and then dealing more with the spiritual aspects and the dream work and the breath work that he does. So I think it'll be a pretty good combination. And I can email you about that as well if you want, with the handout, if you make a note of it upstairs on the little sign-up sheet that I have. Anybody have any other questions? One of our friends is a licensed hypnotist, and I am actually going to be taking a class to become a licensed hypnotist, even though I've studied it for 10 years. When I was in undergrad, we had a study group with a guy who was a hypnotist but wasn't certified to certify us. But she actually does a combination of hypnosis and EFT for weight loss, and she does it for stop smoking. So you actually get the mental aspect of why do you eat what you eat, and why are you holding on to the weight that you have. And then also dealing with the physical aspect of overcoming cravings, because cravings a lot of time are a biological issue. EFT, emotional freedom technique, is the acupressure that I've studied. The neurolinguistic programming is a lot of the mental work that I do with submodalities. Hypnosis is just basically learning to focus and trance yourself in and out. When it comes to a religious background, I have, yeah. It's really a syncretic blend of a bunch of different things. It's a very syncretic blend of a lot of different things. And if you go to study NLP, neurolinguistic programming, there are tons of different trainers out there. Like I said, you can go to John Grinder, and he does it one way. You can go to Richard Bandler, who he does it a completely different way, and they co-created the field back in the 70s. Yeah, and that's actually part of neurolinguistic programming. That was actually something that there's a lot of discussion about who really first realized that. But in tons of papers that were written in psychology journals for years, people would notice that when you went to imagine something, people would kind of stare off up into the right and up into space. And if they were talking about their emotions, they would kind of go like this and look down and to the right. And it went across gender lines, across race lines, and ethnic, and socioeconomic. And people didn't pick up on it until someone picked up and said, well, maybe they're accessing different parts of their brain. And that's actually a strategy that you can use teaching kids. If they're physically, they feel bad when they're studying something, have them look in a different direction than what they typically do when they go to do it. If they are focusing on an emotion and a feeling and they're looking down and to the right, have them look up and to the left and imagine themselves in a new picture. It accesses a completely different part of the brain. Oh, there actually is no specific religious background that this takes part in, because the Chinese acupressure part of it, I think, is very secular. You can go to, Christian counselors that will send you to an acupuncturist if they think. I just myself have questions about my own religion every day, so that's why I came. There's a actual talk about EFT is kind of like if you plug in a bunch of stuff in your house and you blow the circuit breaker and get out and you have to re-flip the switch to turn all the power back on. That's what EFT is that you've blown a switch someplace in your body. And EFT is basically like tapping on all the acupressure points to flip that switch so you can turn the power back on right. I don't think that that's religious. It's like asking if the stapler is religious. I see it as a spiritual thing, but it's my own personal spirituality. So, he was first, I'm sorry. That memory is, yeah. A lot of times they have a physical traumatic component based with it, and that's what EFT can do, is help your body sort of reset itself from that trauma, whether it was 5 days ago or 15 years ago. Yes, sir? One thing that I would recommend, and this is one reason that I wanted to teach the basic tapping technique in such a short amount of time, 15 minutes, was go to emofree, EMOFREE.com. That is the site to go and study emotional freedom techniques. You'll read about the guy who developed it named Gary Craig. He's actually a master neurolinguistic programming practitioner. If you want to study that, just Google neurolinguistic programming. Some of the original books are very, very academic, and I don't think that they're necessarily what everyone should start out with. Probably the best book, and it's extremely small, and you can get it from almost any library, is a book by Richard Bandler called Guide to Submodalities. And it'll teach you the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and I guess gustatory, or whatever you want to say, taste, and how to start playing with those yourself when you're imagining things, when you're listening to things. And the more that you play with it, and the more you learn about how you process information, the more control you have over your own reality. There's actually a really interesting book that will show you some of the applications of it that are a lot of people think that are out there, but it's called The Warrior's Edge. It was actually written about how neurolinguistic programming was used in like the 80s and 90s in the training of the U.S. Army. I'm sure that there are in some of the research. I just don't read that in depth about it. I just see that it works, so I keep playing with it. Was it The Men Who Stare at Goats? The Men Who Stare at Goats? Oh. It's actually a really good book, by the way, if anyone wants to read it. I know a couple of people in there. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, part of it was the fact that they started changing how they trained people. Instead of, having you line up on a firing range and you shoot at like a circular target, which is great when you're just first learning how to shoot and be accurate with a weapon. Then they changed it to more small group tactics where you're actually walking and something pops up and it's a target and it looks like a person. And that's what they train you to, so that you develop that sort of muscle memory. Well, Milton Erickson at one point, who was the basis of a lot of this research when it comes to understanding how people think and process information, because content a lot of times is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you're depressed because, your mom yelled at you when you were 5, or, your dad left when you were 15 or whatever. It's still, the content is somewhat important, but it's the process that you go by of remembering what was said. The picture that you make in your mind of, your dad walking out the door. Well, let's not change the content. Let's not worry about the fact that he left. Let's change how you picture that, because that might be the point where your psyche got stuck. And then you've been repeating that one image, that one pattern for the rest of your life. Let's take all the emotion out of that. Let's change that. Let's get you past that point and see what happens. A lot of people, all they need to do is get past that one sticking point. I'll be really curious to see. Is anyone in here the guy who's doing the lecture on picking up girls tomorrow? Okay. I'm just really curious to see what he talks about and whether he actually goes into neurolinguistic programming. Has anyone here seen the show The Pickup Artist on VH1? Okay, I love that show because what they're doing is they're talking a lot about using patterns and language patterns and stuff like that, and a lot of it's neurolinguistic programming. But there are guys on there that literally walk into a bar and all they tell them is go talk to someone, and they damn near cry because they are so anxious about it. And I've had people that literally have come to talk to me and they say, I can't go to take a test because I can't walk in the door. When I go to open the door to the classroom, I start to sweat bullets. Same thing. So let's start using just a simple 15-minute technique to reduce that anxiety and see what happens. Maybe you don't need all these elaborate language patterns and social engineering and social dynamics. Maybe you just need to overcome some base level anxiety. Let your own personality come through after that. Anybody else have any questions? I'll be here all weekend. Brad is going to be here all weekend. I don't know if you can get him to do any qigong, but he was doing it upstairs out on the patio. He's also a massage therapist. He'll be giving massage treatments up there. I'll be available for doing EFT. A lot of what I do with EFT is on confidence issues, learning issues, stuff like that. Brad deals some more with the actual traumatic experiences than I do. That's not something that really interests me. But feel free to come to either one of us, ask questions about it, and we'll work with you for 5 or 10 minutes if you like.